Hello and welcome to another episode of ZenChats. Today, I'm thrilled to be here with two of the co-founders of Meta Angels, a project that I am just a huge, enormous fan of. I have been since before they launched. Allyson Downey and Alex Cavoulacos. I'm sorry, I'm butchering
Cavoulacos.
that.
I know it's a
Cavoulacos.
one. Yeah.
I just thought I didn't want to ask you before, and I was like, I'm just going to go for it. And
Like it. Bold.
yeah, how are you both? Welcome.
You're
Thank
great.
you so much. Really excited to be talking.
Yeah, no, really excited to have you here. So, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people who are watching and listening they know what Meta Angels is, but there might be some people who don't. So, in your words, what is Meta Angels?
Do you want to jump in, Alex, or do you want me to?
Go for it.
Okay. So Meta Angels is a values-driven NFT community that is centered around generosity, transparency, and accessibility. And our goal is to leverage metaverse relationships to drive real-life impact. So building out a community that is aiming to support people in their day-to-day lives, not just with alpha and other NFT projects, but making meaningful connections that help people open doors.
I love that. Yeah. And I think that's something that I noticed, like, as soon as you joined the Discord, you had this thing, the wishing well, right? Where people could come and make wishes, and then people could fulfill the wishes. And it's like a lot of the times that was tangible things that were like happening and helping people. Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. But like, what are some of the best or your favorite wishes that you've seen fulfilled through that?
There's so many of them. I mean, there's sort of larger stories that have come, over time and
Yeah.
time. But in terms of just like what can feel like a small thing to offer, but actually makes a big difference in people's lives. There's a few different folks who have had job interviews at companies and been able to connect with people who work there or worked there and get insider scoop ahead of time, feel more confident going into it, know what they're getting into, know what questions to ask, learn about the culture, see if it's a place they'd really want to work. So like those very tangible, I don't know anyone there and now I do. There's a more personal one. There was someone who reached out very early on, said, has anyone gone through the divorce of your parents as an adult? I don't have any friends who've gone through it. I don't know who to talk to about it. I feel like not sure how to navigate. And within 24 hours, I'd connect with a couple of different people about that. So there's a personal, there's the professional. Artists who have made connections. We have one of our members, a couple of our members who got together and created something called Angel's Wing. It's an on cyber gallery, and it's entirely member driven. And they now have regular chats, and they take all these independent artists who are all members of our community and showcase them, put their art on the wall in the gallery. You can buy their work. And they let them talk about their art on the Twitter spaces. There's actually very few venues to just talk about your art, what inspires you, your journey. So I've loved going to those. And then there's one that you were involved with. We had someone who reached out and had, a intense personal situation that they were dealing with and wanted to create something out of it to help others and wasn't sure where to start in their journey through NFTs. And now they're a part of Zen Academy. They've gotten help from people, all sorts of different skill sets. It's really been like a team effort of people who are like, we see your need, we see your passion, and we want to help uplift you and help you create something out of that experience. So all of those sort of different elements. Allie, do you have favorite ones I haven't covered?
Yeah, I mean, I would go deep. Like when I think about like what really exemplifies it and that deep spirit of generosity, that example that you're sharing, we have someone from our community that is coding their website. We have someone who's giving them advice about marketing. Like really have rolled up their sleeves and looked at ways that they can help in a hands-on way because the mission resonated with them, and they could see that this was someone who was experiencing a lot of pain and that this was something that they could help alleviate. It's just been so powerful to see, and that's just one of the examples of the magic that is happening.
One of my favorite things about it is that I think a lot of people get into Web3 and they're like, I don't know where I can help or what I can do. I don't know that much about NFTs yet, but everyone comes with their lived experiences, right? We have people who are therapists, who are marketers, who are executives, who are managers, who are pharmacists. I'm going to give a shout out to Trump, who all sorts of people in our organization, right? And who can help with those skills, who can help with that knowledge, right? The fact that you're a manager means you can help people who are wondering how to interview because you've been on the other side of the table. We had someone who volunteered to run a resume workshop with me, who used to run resume. I mean, I've done a lot of that myself, and she did that in a career center. And so we did an hour-long workshop. People loved it. It was really helpful. So that's one of the things I love as well, is it lets people bring their experiences to help others and then find others who can help with what their needs are.
Yeah, no, I think it's so I think Allyson, you used the word magic. It's so magical bringing together this, like within Web3, I think there's this really strong culture of people wanting to help each other. If someone asks you a question, you're happy to share your information because it wasn't that long ago that you were just starting out and navigating the space. But you really took that to the next level and like created this culture and this space, like really a space where people can offer their services and find people and ask for help and get matched up in a really exciting way. I can't tell you how many like conversations I've had with people who would like asking me questions, like really basic NFT stuff. And then they're like, can I come work for you? Or is there a role? Can I do something? And then I was like, well, I don't really have anything right now. Maybe I'm looking for a personal assistant. Maybe that's something I'm doing. And they're like, what's your experience? And they're like, oh, I have a law firm. I employ 12 people. I'm head of marketing. And it's just like, oh, okay. It's crazy. Just, yeah, people have such wild and insane experience in the real world coming into Web3, and they want to learn Web3 and they have so much to offer. And yeah, I think you're doing an amazing thing of like finding that talent and matching it up with people who can get help. Yeah.
Well, and that's tied to that transparency value that's core. It's not just about us as a project being transparent. It's about encouraging community members to be transparent about who they are and what their skills are. In a space that is so driven by anonymity, it's hard to make deep and meaningful connections unless what someone's lived experience is. And you don't have to know their name. You don't have to know like where physically they are in the world, but like knowing what they know well and what their expertise is and what they love to do is really meaningful and impactful.
Yeah, and also finding those shared connections, right? Two of our first channels and before we minted were Meta Parents and Angel Foodies. We also then added furry friends for pet lovers and animal lovers. And one of the reasons we did that is that people connect in a deep level based on their identities and things they love and things they share. And so when you join a community, especially when you walk into a Discord server, it's sort of like walking into a party that had an open invite. You're not sure what you're supposed to do. There's a bunch of people talking. You don't feel super welcome. You don't know where to go. And being able to say, okay, I see, music over here. I love music. Let's go there. Or there's people doing mixology at the bar and someone comes over and says, hey, join us, right? Those experiences make people feel more welcome in this space that is actually quite, not the entire Web3 space, but there's very welcoming pockets of it.
Yeah.
We want people to feel that.
No, I love that. That's honestly just making me think, because I forget sometimes what it's like for a new person joining Discord, joining the space, how overwhelming it can be. I remember, like, if I think about it, when I was first getting into it, it's intimidating. It's like, do you want to say something? You don't, yeah, exactly. It's so wild. So I think making these spaces a soft landing for people, or making it warm and comfortable is just so incredible and useful for elevating the entire space, honestly.
Yeah.
I heard someone say years ago that that diversity is being invited to the party and inclusion is being asked to dance. And that's in part what we're trying to do here. And, I found that landing pad for myself in the Women in Crypto channel within Curious Addies. Like, I looked at the channels and I was like, oh, like that's somewhere that I could find a sense of belonging. And I brought Alex into that channel as well, and probably 10 or 15 other women. So just finding those entry points that feel welcoming and unintimidating and like you belong there is so important.
Yeah. And I think the real world piece of it for us also ties in because, when I have something I need in my career, in my life, I have a lot of places I can turn. I'm really lucky. I have a lot of privilege. After all of these years in my career, I've also developed my network very deeply. The average person, depending on what the question is, may not have a place to turn. That makes a difference, right? Getting that person to look at your resume or make an introduction, or asking, is it okay if I negotiate a raise or not, right? Those sorts of things that you get feedback and you learn and you grow. And so being able to give that access to other people, in what I love about Web3 is that it's so global, right? If we were to start a membership community here in the US without Web3, it would have to take dollars. And that means that people would have to, that would be a limitation to where we'd be able to start. Instead, we have people from all over the world. And that's also amazing because people have questions. Be traveling to Indonesia and get local advice on what to do. They'll be thinking about relocating to Dubai and get to learn from someone who lives there. Those things as well, I think, help create connection, but also it's value in your real life, right? I can have someone do a resume workshop for my employees in New York. That's something that most companies can afford to do. that may not be accessible to everyone. And so we want to keep bringing not just the connections, but programming and other value for people that they're able to keep elevating and growing outside of Web3 or inside of Web3. Not everyone has to have a job in Web3 to enjoy being part of these communities. We want that to continue to be the case, and also to reflect the diversity of Web3. I think there's a perception. I mean, it's certainly a very male-dominated space still, though there's progress. There's a perception that it's a very young space. And my experience is actually there's a lot more diversity in age than you would believe.
Yeah.
It's just that people can hide behind avatars, and you don't realize that this totally rad person you're talking to is 62, and this other totally rad person you're talking to is 16. And they're, like, there's just such a wild and amazing range. And I think that's also part of what's so cool about the communities we're all building.
Yeah, it's the age thing is phenomenal. I think a lot of people's first instinct is like everyone's in the young 20s. It's all young, 22-year-old males. But then you start talking to people, and it's like, all right, there is a bunch of people that fit that demographic. But then there's just, as you said, there's so many people. And the 16-year-old thing is so true. Sometimes I'm talking to someone, and they're talking like about, oh, should I sell this NFT that's worth 40 ETH? And I was like, well, what's your life situation? What are your goals? And, trying to help. And they're like, well, I'm going to my last year of high school next year. It's just like, how did you get into this? This is so crazy and wild.
Yeah.
And
they're not only creating valuable NFTs, they're creating civic DAOs, and they are looking to make environmental impact in their local communities. I mean, it's amazing. And I think it's just so cool to be able to see that impact globally. But it is wild when you don't know who you're talking to on the other side, but you actually feel like you know them. I
think crypto is sort of like the great equalizer. In theory, it can be. It's not there yet, and there's still a lot of inequality, but I try and paraphrase that Winston Churchill quote about how democracy is the worst form of government except for every other form. Blockchain technology is the worst system for everything except for everything else we've seen before. It's like it's progress, and it's all about how we use it. Yeah,
and I think it's so true when you think about artists, right? You're going to buy a piece for 0.1 ETH or 0.01 ETH, whatever it is, and whether that's $200 goes not a super long way in New York City, though it's a good amount of money, or whether it goes a really long way somewhere else in the world. You don't know. You're not adjusting for what you think it should be worth based on local currencies. People can really make a difference in their income stream and their lives. No, that's really amazing, and it's true on the fundraising side too. I mean, I've fundraised in Silicon Valley, and you need certain gatekeepers to say, yes, we believe that you're going to make a multiple on our investment in order to give you millions of dollars. All of a sudden here, you're in a world in which if you can create something people really want, you can sell millions of dollars worth of NFTs, and start a business and build a brand and build a community. And it doesn't matter whether you're, Stanford dropout in a hoodie that looks like Mark Zuckerberg when people are thinking about fundraising. They don't, I prefer to know who the projects are, but it's taken away that gatekeeping layer. And it's about, are you building something people really love and want? Not, can you make venture capitalists a lot of money, which are two different questions. Sometimes they overlap, but not always. And that's, I think, why NFTs have allowed so many women-led projects, queer-led projects, minority-led projects, global projects, not just US and Silicon Valley based, to thrive, is because it's really focused on the end person and the community and who you're building for. So that's a great equalizer from that perspective too.
Well, and the other thing that that feels so powerful for me in the way that NFTs are, how these companies are funding themselves, is that they're selling a product right out of the gate. Whereas, you build a tech company, and there's a long stretch of time in which you are building something before you can sell it and start to generate revenue. And if you are raising from venture capitalists, you are hamstrung in a lot of ways about how you can shape and grow and pivot your business. I raised from angels in 2013 and then got to cash flow positive in about 18 months. So have built a business on revenue, and it is a very different experience than what I've seen for a lot of my friends who've raised VC. So all of these entrepreneurs are able to build businesses that are funded by revenue, which is just incredible.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. Yeah. Go on.
The thing I'd add is, I think the flip side of that, which has really been a wild thing to see in the space, is that you can have folks create something people really want and sell millions of dollars worth of NFTs and start a business who've never started a business before. And it's really hard I'm lucky. We've done this for decades between us. We've started multiple companies. We've dealt with regulation. We've dealt with lawyers. We've dealt with HR and filing taxes and all of those things as a matter of course, but also learned how to either do or manage marketing and sales and brands and all those pieces, operations, product engineering. We have that to build upon.
Yeah.
If you're an artist who's done something phenomenal, all of a sudden you need to be an expert in all of these fields. That's really a challenge. I think it's, I hope there continue to be more support systems and networks for artists.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons that Angel Labs came to be for us. We went into launching Meta Angels, knowing we knew all the business part, the brand and all of that, and saying, okay, what we need to do is really master the Web3 launch component. What does it entail? I remember Googling, how do you do art generation and finding hackers and like all those things. And then we built our own app and did rarity and did all the metadata. And, within, I don't know, less than a week, I was pushing buttons on the command line and generating art every day and looking at hundreds of angels.
Yeah.
That part we only need for Mint. So we had to figure it out and move on. The actual running of the business is hard. So that's one of the things for Angel Labs is we wanted to help people either who knew Web3 and didn't know the business piece, or who really are excellent, operators and business leaders, but who might not know that Web3 part, not keep reinventing the wheel. Because despite the transparency in the space, you have all these talented Solidity developers building the same smart contract.
Exactly.
Every single day. It's like, we're recreating Discords, we're recreating smart contracts, we're recreating landing pages and rethinking. And it's good to push the envelope and think about a better way to do it. But just, continuing to do the same thing for me feels like it's such a waste of the talent we have in this space.
No, I agree completely. Let's take a step back a bit. You mentioned Angel Labs. What is Angel Labs, and where did is this something you had the idea for from before you even launched Meta Angels, or is it something that evolved over time? Yeah,
it's something that came about actually while we were minting. To give a little bit of background, I went through Y Combinator in winter of 2012. Gabe, our engineering lead and co-founder, he went through it actually 6 months after me, but we didn't know each other at the time. Allyson went through Techstars. And so we've all seen and benefited from basically the two premier accelerator programs in the world that have two different models for it, but that both bring a lot of value. And as we were going through our mint, learning all of these things, Gabe joked, who's going to build the YC of Web3? Like, clearly there's a need for it. If we could just been accelerated through, had people, what do you do with all the ETH after mint? Do you have a multi-sig? What do you do with it? Do you need an institutional account? How do you handle taxes? Like, where are the people I can ask all these questions?
Yeah.
And and we built relationships. We're able to ask other project founders, but that's inefficient and also not accessible to everybody. And so Gabe joked about it. Probably within 48 hours, we're like, should it be us? Maybe it could be us. That sounds, not only does that sound fun, but it's actually something we're uniquely positioned, having been through those programs, having launched companies, having mentored then companies through that. Allyson's been a mentor for a long time for Techstars, and immediately thought of Cheryl, who's our managing director, who herself has been through Techstars, been an entrepreneur in residence there, started, co-founded, sold companies. I mean, she sold her first company in Web1 before I was in the workforce. I mean, someone who just had incredible experience.
And sorry, she's also run 2 Ironmans or 3 Iron,
yes.
Is that correct?
Ironmans.
2 companies, 3 Ironmen, and 4 children.
I was looking at when I was researching for this. I saw that. I was like, what? Because that is so hard to do.
She's a badass. She is. She really is. And I think that's where the idea came from. Was we're actually in this amazingly well positioned place where we're close enough to it to know what people need to know for that first mint. But we've also been through programs and we can take the best of both. So YC does this amazing job building the community and the network. I can go now, and I have gone and messaged folks and said, hey, we're doing this thing. Can anyone hook me up with this? Or does someone have an intro or just a question? And then Allyson has seen how Techstars does the programming so well, the mentorship piece so well. So we sort of merged the best of both to launch this. And we're so excited about it. We've had 150 plus, 160. I don't know, we're getting 20 a day in the last lead up to Monday, which is going to be when the applications are closed, but we're seeing incredible talent in this space. I mean, it's going to be a really great cohort.
So people apply, and then what's the process after? Like, do you process all the applications? How many people get selected? What's next?
So the class, the intent for the class is 10 projects. We have seen so many outstanding applications. We may make little adjustments,
bigger, but not
to that. And it'll be a stretch of time that is structured and is not too much of a drain on the companies, because we know that they need to run their businesses, but have master classes in place. Like, here's how you set up a multi-sig with someone from Gnosis, and here's what you need to know about applying for your Coinbase institutional account with someone from Coinbase.
Before
and
you're
here's the tax
a while.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But also, here's the art generation piece, right? There's 4 tracks, right, Allie? There's the business operations piece, which is a lot of what you just talked about. There's marketing and community and Discord, all of those pieces, and how do you build and how do you lead up to mint. There's art and art generation, and then there's the technical piece. And then all the mentors. I think it's one of the most exciting things about it, including you. I mean, it's going
to which I still don't know exactly what I'm doing, but just let me know, and I'm there.
Once we pick the cohorts, we've got you. You've got you online. Part of it is we're going to make sure we match individual companies with mentors who are a good fit for their focus area, for people who are doing one-on-ones. And then, as Ali said, we've got master classes and people coming in to share, here's what I really know well, for the whole cohort to learn together.
So, I mean, it sounds amazing. It really does. And it sounds exactly like you mentioned, you're perfectly suited to create this product and deliver it and execute on it, because I think I'd heard of or seen a couple of projects try and do these sort of incubators or accelerators or Shark Tank type things. And it kind of works, but it was usually way less structured than what it sounds like you're doing. And it was, hey, we'll get a group of the community together and we'll look at some projects and we'll pick the ones that we like the most. We'll give them a little bit of money and maybe answer a few questions, but it's not this full on network effect with the 4 tracks and all that kind of expertise and knowledge that project founders really need. So that's fantastic.
Well, one of the common threads among the 4 of us is that we don't do things small
or half-assed.
Something that maybe like compromises some of our quality of life. But I joked with Gabe and Alex the other night that we need a 12-step program for workaholism, the 3 of us. And Cheryl is very much the same way. And if we're going to do this, we want to knock it out of the park. We don't want to do it if we're not going to be able to really excel at it and deliver not only a ton of value to the companies going through it, but a lot of value to Meta Angels holders as well, who are going to have that early look into these companies. And we're also looking for companies, not projects, which is different than what some of the space is focused on. We're looking for companies that are NFT enabled, not just NFTs. So looking at how we can continue to mature and build the ecosystem so we can get to that place where, I talk about all the time how I feel like we're looking at the invention of the wheel. It's a slab of stone that's being used as a pottery wheel. Like, how do we get to the spokes when it's being used for a wagon, and what can we do to help accelerate that?
Yeah, and there's so much innovation in the space. I mean, it's amazing.
That's crazy.
As a result, we're not going to have 10 KPFP projects. We can promise that. Not that there's not some good projects coming out, but that's a model that exists, right? And so what's the variety? How do we showcase and look for a lot of different ways that NFTs are being used? Because if we want to have, mass adoption of this space, and I do believe, looking in the future, that Web3 and blockchain will underpin a lot of what we do. And in some cases, people won't even know about it. The way that, I take a picture on my phone and I can access it on my computer, and I didn't think about the fact that the cloud is just happening. Yeah. Or when I turn on my computer, I don't have to use the command line. It just works, right? I think there'll be layers like that for the true mass adoption piece of it that will just help power the way that people function, the way that things and knowledge moves around. But for that middle step, I think there needs to be use cases for people to use in a lot of different ways, right? And, brands are thinking about this certainly, but it's interesting to see how NFTs have captured the imagination of people in the way that crypto and blockchain have not, a different set of people.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think that is the inclusion piece. You can see yourself, you can find community. What's the where does that continue to go and how does that grow? I think it's so interesting versus just getting airdrops from a project. Yeah. Airdrops are great. You can get them from the projects that exist and are coming out. What's the other sorts of things we can do with NFTs? There's just a lot out there. It's really cool.
The possibilities are just endless. And like I always say, crypto, if you were into crypto prior to 2021, it was like you were either into tech and or finance. Those are like basically the people that would be attracted to crypto. NFTs enter the scene in a big way, and now it's like if you're into art, if you're into music, if you're into gaming, if you're celebrities, your favorite celebrity that you follow is into it. It's like it's culture.
Fashion,
it's
it's
everyone.
culture.
Fashion, yeah. It's literally everything. Charitable causes, social good. There's like that was in crypto a bit, but NFTs really unlock the community element, the fundraising. It's so powerful.
It's so powerful, and I think people are also seeing the real life impact of it as a result, right? People have seen. I mean, we'll use Ukraine as an example. A lot of money was raised in a lot of different ways using the crypto community. We did an impact collection, that raised 50,000 plus, and still has some left if anyone is interested in supporting Ukraine. I know in impact collection, beautiful angels designed by Sarana, but being able to take those things and both contribute to a cause directly, 100% of proceeds going there, and also get a token of that. I think people appreciate that. But then you see the real life examples of people who live in Ukraine who completely lost any access to their bank accounts, or their money is not worth anything. And those who had crypto are like, that's what I'm using to feed my family. And like you start to see why having a currency you can take across borders is really powerful. So I think when you see those two pieces come together, you start seeing the different ends of the ecosystem in real life.
Yeah, it's really opened up this like worldwide dialogue, I think, because traditional financial structures sort of broke down a bit, and people flooded to crypto.
Do you feel like you've seen a different audience in the last months in terms of demographics, in terms of interests? Like, how have you seen that shift? I'm really curious.
In the last maybe 3 to 6 months, I definitely feel like there's, maybe in the last 3 months specifically, definitely seeing more, just wider adoption. And again, like even early to mid last year, as NFTs taken off, it was still largely people who came for the money and the tech and the finance, and then maybe some artists were getting it. And then over time, it's slowly been expanding to capture just more and more of the society and culture. And part of it's because a lot of the projects before, they were like targeted towards male demographics, young male demographic traits were not something, the communities were not, they didn't resonate with, most of the world. It was very targeted because that's what the space was and that's what they knew. And just as time is going on, it's just we're opening up and becoming more diverse, inclusive, and representative of the world, which is wonderful to see.
Yeah, that was one of the goals with our lending technology, which we've talked about a lot. I know you hold a lot for Zen Academy to loan out, but that enables a holder to loan their token on chain to someone else, so they can get those membership benefits and authenticate in the way that someone who owns that token can, get access to the community and get that toehold into the NFT space and learn and see what it's like to be part of a community. I sent out 3 loans this morning. One was to NFT project founder. It's an amazing project called Game Changers, and they have applied to Angel Labs and are building something really phenomenal. I loaned one to the graphic designer for my Web2 company, so she could start to see what things look like. And then I loaned one to someone from a brand that I've been talking to about how we could work together with Meta Angels, and I wanted to showcase for her what that community looked like.
It's so cool. Actually, I haven't told you this, but the first iteration of Zen Academy, when I was thinking about launching it, I was like, I want there to be an option where I can just send the token for free to anyone as their first NFT, to give them like a good, warm experience into the space, so they can see what it's like to have an NFT in their wallet, to verify with Discord, Collabland, and all that. And we couldn't quite figure out a feasible way because of the cost involved and the value would dilute and stuff like that. Lending just solves all that. It's brilliant. It really is fantastic.
I'm hoping we see it adopted more, both for the inclusion and accessibility piece, which obviously was core and the inspiration for us. But we've actually seen the security piece of it be really interesting for people as well, and saying, I hold this NFT in my hard wallet and I have it in the vault, and then I lend it to my own hot wallet so I can use it to collab land into anything or to do any sort of pre-mint. We had one person who was borrowing one of our NFTs, have their wallet compromised. Brand new to the space, clicked on a DM. Only thing in there was the Meta Angel that they had borrowed from someone in our community, and the scammer couldn't take it. They tried, they kept trying and figuring out, like you could see, right? And we're trying to figure out what to do. They actually transferred ETH in to try and list it. Like they were trying to figure out how to
so good.
NFT out.
And they listed at like 50% of the floor price. And the way we realized this was going on was because people kept posting in our Discord, like, I'm trying to buy this angel off the floor because it's such a good buy and I can't. What's going on? And the transactions kept failing.
Yeah.
Huh.
So it's an interesting thing to think about from that perspective, from a security perspective. As we continue to see issues on the scamming side, there's work to be done there in the space, but that's another way to think about how do you secure your assets, especially your most valuable ones? And how do you make sure that you're still able to do things like, you know, participate in communities and collaborate into all these different tools. There's all these different tools. It's a bit of a scary space if you're new to it, right? Like it's I think something we'll need to solve as an ecosystem to make it more welcoming.
There's a lot we need to do before mainstream adoption truly happens, and the infrastructure and the tooling and the security is one part of it. I want to talk a little more about the relationship between Meta Angels and Angel Labs, and how do those two sort of synergize and work together? And you mentioned sort of there's value for Meta Angels holders as, you know, projects go through the accelerator, but could you just talk a bit more about that, please?
Yeah. So in starting Angel Labs, you know, so it's Allie, myself, and Gabe who co-founded Angel Labs and who also worked on Meta Angels together. We wanted it to be a separate entity because there's, I think, a lot of opportunities for it to become its own beast, but we wanted it to still be something that really benefited our holders. So right now, anyone who holds a Meta Angels or who has been loaned one is guaranteed a first round interview, which is something that we say, you know, no matter what, we want to make sure you at least get a chance to pitch live, to get that opportunity to get that. And then the team there has the independence to still pick the cohort, but it gives people a second chance. If they weren't great on paper, you can go and do that. And what's been amazing to see is so many people have gone out and offered, if you're applying and you want an interview, borrow from me. So the team has, like, I think they might do upwards of 100 interviews. I mean, it's going to be a lot for them, but it's amazing. Really amazing. And that's people who want to apply and who want to go through the program. We have a lot of people building and starting NFT collections. Our most active collective is called NFT Builders and Launchers. We've done, they've self-organized, done something called Angel Tank that I've come in and given feedback live with, usually with another person, on people pitching on Twitter Spaces. So you can hear someone pitch, you can hear the feedback on the pitch, and then you can learn and iterate. So that's a whole thing for people building, but we know that obviously not all of our members are building projects, nor should they be. And so once we have the exact cohort set, we'll be able to give a little bit more detail, but members of Meta Angels will get special access to those cohorts, whether it's their mints or their products, sort of depending on the range of what's going on there. And so that will be another benefit ongoing, to be able to say what's going through Angel Labs, we get sort of preferential access in some way. And in no guarantee, you know, you don't have to participate if it's not for you, but if you're excited about it, being a holder will be a benefit.
Yeah, that's such a clear benefit. And I think a lot of projects have been working. I mean, so many projects now have a pre-sale access list, a mint list, a gold list, a green list, instead of just a public sale. So, and projects are saying, well, there's value to securing those spots for our holders and figuring out how to, and it's either a raffle or sometimes they introduce an ERC20 token and they're like, well, you can buy these, you know, mint list spots with your token. And yeah, because you get to sort of choose the projects that go through the accelerator and then mentor them and you know, give them the best chance to succeed. These are now high quality projects that your community gets first access to. So that's just real value, which is amazing. And it's so different, again, to any other project that I've heard of. Almost any other project. Yeah.
It's exciting. And it also means they get to know the project over time, right? We're not going to just be like, surprise, they're minting tomorrow. Yeah. Who's in Angel Labs? What are they about? And I think in a space that's so fast moving, where often you have to make a decision. Am I going to mint this company? I just heard about them yesterday. It's full of, should I do it? Being able to sort of know what's going on, what they're doing, their evolution. I think it's a healthy precedent to set in the space. What does it look like to choose something you're really excited about? Doesn't mean you can't FOMO into something, but you should know what you're doing and which one. Know the difference between the two.
Yeah. And in the VC world, you know, there's so much talk about investing in lines, not dots. So not just taking, you know, one data point and deciding whether or not you're in, but looking at how those progress over time. And for the most part, that's not happening right now in the NFT space. There are some instances where it absolutely is. But something like Angel Labs is going to enable our community, other communities, to watch how these companies are progressing over time and the things that they're accomplishing, and be able to learn more. And I know, Alex had mentioned that our most active collective within Meta Angels is the NFT builders and founders. You and I had talked about how when you were polling Zen Academy, such a large proportion of your holders were interested in building.
70 to 80%. Yeah.
It's
crazy.
It's also something that, I think there's so little transparency, as much as the space is transparent, around what it really takes to launch something, to build improvement, and what happens afterwards. I think, even with the amount of preparation we had and how smoothly our mint went and everything, we still had a lot of questions we had to get answered in a very short period of time. And that's a perfect example. We were able to build and use our network to figure out those answers. But a lot of things that, a brand new person in the space with a really great idea, it lets them leapfrog over the stuff that's been answered before. You just need the answer, and lets them focus their time instead on really building, right? Instead of wasting a week trying to figure out how to do the same smart contract, have that be in the bag and focus on building your community, or focus on, partnerships you're building, or whatever is differentiating for you.
Well, and your Zen Academy class for NAS Academy is brings that at scale, and makes that accessible to such a larger pool of people. And I just see so much value in giving people those tools that they need to succeed.
Yeah, I think that's the scale is the word that is really important there, because it's so difficult for everything in this space to have one-on-one hold people's hands through, and that's great if you have someone to hold your hand and answer your questions, but not everyone has that. And then again, it's not scalable unless you get this massive web where you teach someone and they teach two people, and then but I think a mix of the two, where you have mentorship as you're including, but also just these masterclass or these videos or things that people can take and just self-learn and get better educated.
Well, I imagine it's also freeing up a lot of time on your end. I think you told me one week that you did 60 meetings.
62 that week. It was crazy. Yeah.
Which is not good for anyone's quality of life.
No, I need that 12-step workaholics program as well.
Yeah. We'll work on it.
Yeah.
The other thing
I'll build it.
Yeah. No, don't. Then we'll build it.
No.
Overcomplicate our lives, adding one more thing.
I was joking there. I do occasionally joke about
that's also, I think, interesting for me in this space is what's thought of as best practice. Is it really best practice, and how much does it change, right? The ways that smart contracts were being coded up at the beginning of December versus even beginning of January. Being that's not very gas efficient. We could do that differently. And here's another thing we learned. And actually, let's backtrack that as well. I think it also makes for a need to have places you can turn for the latest information, and people to ask, and people who are sort of really knowledgeable in that part of the space. How you think about a smart contract is very different from how do you think about building a Discord community, but you need to put it both if you're going to do both as part of your project. So I think that's what becomes also part of the benefit of something like Angel Labs, but overall just the amazing opportunity in the space to continue to innovate. The lending technology was an idea from Allie. She's like, there's got to be a way for us, as the floor price goes up, to make sure that it's accessible to people who can't afford it. It's core to us having generosity and accessibility built in. We can't have a world where only the richest people can access it. That just is, it's antithetical to the idea of it being an network. And how do we solve for that when we don't control secondary market? So that was sort of the problem. I'm so curious what other problems people are seeing that they're going to find a on-chain solution for.
Yeah.
That for me, the innovation potential in the space just gets me really excited.
Every couple of months there's something. Well, actually every week there's something new, and every day there's something new. That was one of the challenges, still is, with Zen Academy and creating this knowledge bank and content bank of courses and stuff. It's creating it is not the difficult part. The difficult part is making it updated and keeping it current, because the space moves so fast. It's you spend all this time on a course or an article. Even now, this NAS Academy course, I'm looking back and there's stuff that's just outdated. It's I need to go in and update this bit or add a note saying, well, maybe this, that. Yeah, it's just, it's really crazy. But
and the pace at which all of this moves, and it's not just the pace of how the technology is shifting, but the pace at which building all of these pieces that like I think sometimes I'm like, oh God, that FAQ, something as simple as updating an FAQ in one of our Discord channels, those things get left by the wayside. So when you are thinking about, like how you update the education about different standards, it's just mind-boggling to think about the workload. It's never ending.
It really is.
The thing with this space as well, I mean, we've both built companies, done early stage. The pace of the space is an order of magnitude different than what you see elsewhere. And I think it's both exciting. I think there's also a real risk for this ecosystem that not only do you burn out your founders and your artists, you burn out your consumers. Right? Like you burn out your members, your holders, your community. We have to find a way to both be as excited and passionate and drive it, and for people to also not feel like they need to be 24/7 on Discord, because it's unreasonable for the average person. It's why we did a non-grind, non-hypey mint process for ourselves. It's why our Discord is not, you have to be there every single day to get points, right? You come in when you come in. We are here for you whenever you need something. But I think there's an element there of, how do people manage? Like the number one question I get is, how do you manage all your notifications in Discord? Right? Like,
don't, right?
I think it's for if we want people to want to stay in the space and want to keep building in the space, but also want to keep being a part of it as just participants in these communities. We have to set, I think, a healthier standard. I know you've talked about that as well in terms of how, all consuming the space can be. And I hope, for any artists listening or project founders and builders, it's a real thing, and people are there for you too. That's, I think, part of the community is here to uplift you in those moments.
Yeah, 100%. And everyone is going through it. So you're not alone. If you feel like you can't keep up, or you're feeling FOMO or burnout, it's literally everyone's going through it. I create a lot of content, and the pieces that resonate the most and get the most engagement and the people reach out the most are the ones not about NFT projects, not saying I like this project or I researched this. It's about burnout or mental health or stress or the emotional side that everyone feels. You're absolutely right that we need to, as a space, think of how to create a more sustainable model, because as time goes on, people who are in the space they collect more NFTs, they're involved in more projects. And every time you join a new project, that's another thing that you have to stay on top of, because projects are like, well, all right, we give mint list spots out or we have a raffle or a free claim at this time. It's just over time, it adds up, and it's impossible and draining. So I don't know what the answer is. I think tooling is one step in the right direction, but also just a culture shift. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. No, and I'm not surprised that that's what resonates the most. I mean, it's also, I think one of the reasons this has also taken off so much is after 2 years of a pandemic, people want community. They want connection. I mean, I think we saw how quickly, and especially in a mostly anonymized space, people got very personal. In Wishing Well, in our Discord, when you get to a space that feels like it's going to treat you with care, that it's trusted, that you can sort of bring whatever you need to the table, people do that, and they need it in a really human, authentic, in the way that people need other people, and that connection piece. So as much as we talk about tech, I think so much of the space is actually human connection. And how do we do that in a really not just inclusive way, but a really sort of genuine way to help people be a part of this ecosystem and contribute in the way that works for them.
100%.
And simultaneously, there's that anxiety because this is such a volatile market, and it moves so rapidly and with no tie to fundamentals. If you think about what company stock looks like, and there are underlying pieces that
there's reason stock goes up and down.
Yeah, there are reasons. Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't move nearly as rapidly in most cases. But because of that volatility, there's an internalization within the market that if the project founders just do more, it will like reverse a dip in price or keep things going. And it's a fallacy. It is an irrational market, and it's a fallacy to believe that. And
over time it pays off, right? Like you see when there's no actual value there, when there's a rug or just no real substance, like that happens over time. But a day-to-day movement, a week-to-week movement, you see some amazing projects announce partnerships that are incredible and that has no impact. Yeah. And when you see a tweet drive, incredible FOMO, right? Like that's what the space in, and knowing it, I think, helps people not internalize it. To your point, Allyson, it's not about your work. If you really focus on listening to what people want, building something of value, let that build. Don't,
And having built companies for 10 years, like, we know that it's a marathon, not a sprint. And the market, because of that anxiety, because of that volatility, it hasn't internalized that quite in the same way. And it's a challenge for founders to keep their head down and keep building with all of these outside pressures and distractions. And it takes discipline.
Yeah. And on the consumer side, that's where you see a lot of the mental health and stress and anxiety as well, because people overextend themselves as much as they really shouldn't. There are people who overextend themselves in the space. And it's something, I mean, for anyone watching who's, thinking about getting into the space, I think, people always say start, only put in what you can't afford to lose. Like, that's a real thing. Make sure you can pay your rent, make sure you have a rainy day fund, and build from there. You don't need to jump in with 100%. I mean, like, if you go to Vegas, you're not going to bet the house. You should not bet your house in Vegas. If you were the kind of person who would, be really careful in Vegas, and learn over time, and make short-term, long-term decisions, and figure out why you're in the space. Many people are not here for, or shouldn't be here to flip, because they wouldn't be good at picking stocks. Why would they be any better at picking which pre-mint projects are going to be the next 4 days? It's hard to be that person. That's a very specific skill set. There's people who do that on Wall Street, and everyone else uses mutual funds.
Yes.
That someone else picks for them, right? So I think that's the other thing. I think that's where a lot of also the anxiety and stress comes from, is that as much as someone can pay off their student debt with one mint where they get lucky, you can also end up in real financial distress. And it's something that's, for just people to be careful and thoughtful about.
There's so much success bias.
Yeah,
the stories that get told are the success stories, not the stories of devastation.
Yeah. I
optimistic and positive here.
Yeah. Well, no, it's realistic, and I think the parallels to Vegas are very like, there's a lot of gambling elements to this space. It is very high risk, and the success bias is there. I tweeted out a few months ago, it was just, have you made money, like, in the NFT space? And it was like 50-50, I think. But people tend to think that everyone is making money and winning. It's like, no. And then of the ones that have, it's probably not that much, and it's caused all this stress and anxiety. And I think it's getting harder as well as time goes on to make money. And to your point, Alex, as well, before, about how you said, think about your why. And I think that's just the most important thing. In my course. That's what I focus on. It's like, it's a step that a lot of project founders skip as well. They're like, I want to launch a project, or even an artist, I want to sell NFTs, but they skip over why. Is it just to make money? Is it to have a closer connection to your collectors? Is it to build a brand? Why? It's the best question, honestly.
And on the collector side, like, if you're in this space because you want to make money, do you think you can outperform ETH? Like, that's a question I ask people. If you bought ETH today and you left it in for a year, do you think you can pick better projects with gas put in and whatever OpenSea is going to take as a cut? You think you can do better than that in a year? If that's purely your motivation, if not, then be realistic. I mean, there's some art I've collected and bought because I love it, and I'm excited that I got to be a part of it. I get to support the artist. I get to be part of that community, whatever that is. And if I make money on it one day, it will be icing on the cake. I've already made my trade fair. If that makes sense. And that allows you to have a very different experience, versus saying I'm specifically looking for this, and then you make different decisions.
It's the collector versus investor mindset, and they overlap a lot, but sometimes they don't. And just understanding your why. You mentioned partnerships before. There's an exciting one that we can talk about. So it's not, so we're recording this on the 15th of April, so it's not public yet, but this is going to go out a while later. A partnership with Adobe.
That is
Adobe.
correct.
That's a big brand. Tell me more.
Beloved brand, one that supports creators. That's really core for us as well. We're launching a year-long partnership with them that has multiple elements to it. Allie, I'll let you share a little bit more, but we're really excited. The team there is phenomenal. They've been really supportive of the space in general, and it's important for us to build brand partnerships that are authentic, substantive, and that really live our values in the community. And Adobe really accomplished that for us.
Yeah. So, so as we were thinking about this, there are examples of brands that have come into the space with something that that feels inauthentic, that feels like it is disconnected with the real ecosystem, and that is absolutely not the approach that Adobe wanted to take. And we were able to really ideate with them about the way that we could work together to bring value to the ecosystem overall, while also bringing value to Adobe and Meta Angels holders. So we are kicking off an artist in residence program. So it's an Adobe and Meta Angels artist in residence program where each month an artist will be highlighted, given a platform. We will be spotlighting their work. Adobe invests meaningfully in creators and providing creator tools to help people enter that space. So, providing support in that way, and we'll also be commissioning a piece from them as part of this artist in residence program that will be airdropped to all of our holders. So our holders get to participate in the program while we're also uplifting artists across the ecosystem and providing mentorship to those artists. So really building something out that is actually quite a good parallel for what we're doing with Angel Labs, but focused on the artistic side. And for us with Meta Angels, the art was so fundamental and core. And finding an artist who was creating capital A art that was really differentiated and beautiful. And Alex talks a lot about how you could walk into a museum and see a Meta Angel on the wall and not realize in looking at it that it was there because it was an NFT, that it stands alone as a beautiful artwork, not a digital avatar alone. So really thinking about how we can continue to foster that across the ecosystem and take the learnings of artists who are well established and help make this space, which can be life-changing for so many people, more accessible to artists who are otherwise underrepresented.
Yeah, I think in emerging artists, there's so many people looking to get their break in the space, if you will. And some of that is just finding your audience. I mean, the amazing thing about Web3 is that you can be an artist like Sarana, who lived in rural Australia, and I would never have come across her work. I'd have to be in Australia, be in that part of Australia, be at the particular market or location or place where she was selling her work. I mean, what are the odds, right? And now I can collect her work from New York and put it on my wall, as I do, and share it with people. And so looking for emerging artists from around the world who have amazing talent, different styles, diverse artists, and being able to uplift them, pay them for their work as we commission it, right? It's not just giving people exposure and nothing else, but also giving those tools and that mentorship, and exposing all of our amazing members to a new artist. I mean, I've certainly gotten that through other whether it's an airdrop or Twitter Spaces, and discovered artists that I now follow and love. And so helping them also build that audience that's aligned with them and that wants to go and support and cheerlead them, which is a different part of the space that I love. I mean, you've got all of the membership and collections and all of that, but the true artist and patron relationship that exists in this space is beautiful. Getting that direct access. So excited to be able to have this residency with Adobe. We'll be able to share, artists will be able to apply, people will be able to also nominate and highlight artists. You guys should really check out this person. They'd be great for it. And every month we'll announce a new one. And so our people will get to learn about them, see their art, and then our holders will be surprised with an amazing commission.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And their stories are so many of these artist stories are so powerful. So ensuring that we are sharing those stories and helping foster that sense of connection that we've seen really grow and blossom within the Meta Angels community.
Yeah.
I love it so much.
Really talented artists already that we've commissioned some work internally. I gave a gift to my brother's first NFT was commissioned by one of the artists who's a member of ours. She does a daily piece, so I got his birthday. And
Solo. I think you own the work as well.
I do. I bought a bunch because I love it so much.
Oh, good.
And for some of them, she said, "I'll send you the physicals."
Yeah.
We have been in this back and forth battle with the Germans customers trying to get them. I feel so bad for her. She sent me this massive message today saying I was on the phone with them. They were, it's a pain. So I might just get her to maybe send them to my sister who lives in the US or something now, because I feel so
Alex,
bad. I love
it.
that.
Me in New York and
NFT NYC.
There we go. Yeah.
But yeah, you now know Silva as well. We gifted one to Randy for her birthday, for Randy Zuckerberg. And it's one of those things where it's an artist that weren't aware of, love her work, love her style, and all of a sudden is now, become in our orbit. And I get to follow on Instagram and Twitter and see her work. So who are the next artists we don't know about that are going to resonate with different people? And how do we help uplift that work? Because when you join Twitter with 3 followers and you're trying to make it in the space, it feels really overwhelming. And so we want to help artists get that word out, build that community, and also have community with each other, right? Learn and connect.
Want to quickly ask about NFT NYC. So a big part about Meta Angels is the in real life experiences and networking. What are you doing something? I'm pretty sure you are, but what are the plans that you can share if you can?
Yeah, well, so back in February at ETH Denver, we put together an impromptu gathering. Cheryl actually organized it to take something off my plate. She's local here in Boulder as well, and wound up bringing together like more than 100 people who were holders of Meta Angels or Curious Addies or Zen Academy. So we're going to reprise that in New York and pull together a bunch of people. We're going to do it as a breakfast because we know everyone's evenings are so busy. So give everyone a little fuel in the morning for their busy
coffee, maybe mimosas. We'll see.
Probably mimosas.
I think unlike Denver, I think we'll have founders of each of those projects in person, so we'll get to hang out, which will be fun.
Yeah, it'll be so good.
And then I think we're both speaking. Sarana will be speaking. She's coming in from Australia with her whole family, first time in New York. We're so excited. And then we will have another yet to be shared surprise of something that we're planning for that week, which is going to be really exciting, highlighting incredible projects and artists. So more to come.
And NFT NYC, the tickets are expensive. Being in New York is expensive. So, aligned with that accessibility value that we have, we'll be streaming that event that we are putting together globally. So our holders are all able to participate no matter where they are and what their travel budgets are and what their availability is.
That's amazing. I think that'll help curb a lot of the FOMO that people who can't make it there will,
A lot of conference FOMO, I feel like, especially this year. I mean, it's like every single week there's a new one. And you're
it's crazy.
And you feel like everyone's at every one, but they can't be. It's impossible.
It's impossible, right? It also feels like everyone gets COVID at everyone. So it kind of feels good not going to some of them.
True.
I squeaked through both ETH Denver and Miami NFT without getting COVID.
Wow. So well, this has been wonderful. Is there anything else that you want to touch on or mention before we wrap on up?
No, I think I always like to extend an invitation to anyone who's curious about Meta Angels to come on by, join. We've got a couple of channels open to everyone, but we have a lending and borrowing channel for people who are curious, who can come, raise their hand, introduce themselves, and get connected with holders who are excited to lend, even to people they've never met or across the world on the internet. And so, come on over and get to know us. It's been a path for a lot of people who've ended up joining and getting their own Meta Angels, but it's not at all required. It's really about people who want to come and contribute and participate in the community. And if that's you, we'd love to meet you.
I love it. All right. Thank you both so much. And have a wonderful day.
Thank you.